York is a beautiful city situated in North Yorkshire. It is famous for its city walls and historic narrow streets and passageways, such as the Shambles. It also brings in thousands of tourists every year coming to visit York Minster. Unknown to many is the home of the Archbishop of York, situated in the village of Bishopthorpe, which is 2.5 miles south of the city of York. Bishopthorpe Palace is on the outskirts of Bishopthorpe. Its grounds cover 9 acres of land and are adjacent to the River Ouse. The village of Bishopthorpe was originally called Thorpe St Andrew until 1316 and was bought by Walter de Grey. In 1241 he pulled down a Romanesque manor and built a new house. The house consisted of a great hall with a chapel and was finished by 1250. It was built reusing some of the stone and magnesium limestone.
And welcome to Bishopthorpe Palace on behalf of the Archbishop and all his staff. My name is Gordon. I am the warden of the palace. The palace itself was actually completed, the original palace, in 1241 by Archbishop Walter de Grey. The second stage of the palace was built in 1485 by Archbishop Rotherham, and the third stage, which is really the quite magnificent part of the palace, was the gatehouse, and the stone part at the front was built by Archbishop Drummond in 1761-69. As you come in the entrance hall, if you actually look over the front door, you will see a piece of stained glass, which is the oldest piece of stained glass in the palace. The date on it is 1570, the time of Queen Elizabeth I, and it bears the coat of arms of Archbishop Grindal. The architecture in the entrance hall is known as Strawberry Hill Gothic, which is modelled on Horace Walpole's house at Strawberry Hill, Twickenham. Also, there is a chair in the entrance hall which belonged to one of the two archbishops who came to the palace for 40 years, which was Archbishop Vernon Harcourt. The chair itself was carved from the burnt-out choir stalls at the Minster. When they had a fire in the Minster in 1828, Archbishop Vernon Harcourt gave £250 of his own money for the restoration of the choir stalls. From the entrance hall you would go into the chapel, quite a magnificent chapel.
The Archbishop's Chapel is the oldest part of the palace and dates back to 1241. Walter de Grey had the chapel built, and it was restored in 1891 by Archbishop McLagan. The existing ceiling was put in by Vernon Harcourt, who used the space in the chapel roof as extra bedrooms for his 16 children. These rooms are now used as offices of the Archbishop and his chaplain.
If you go from the chapel into the Great Hall, it has a magnificent 22-foot oak table, which is a Tudor table. If you actually went to the table and felt the top, you would see that the top is not fixed. With it being so big and heavy, of course, it doesn't move anywhere. And you've probably heard the expression, we will turn the tables on you. And where that came from was that the table in the Great Hall was originally produced for the undercroft, where the servants would chop and prepare the food on one side of the table. And when they'd done that, they would turn the table over onto the good side, and you would eat your food off the good side.
The first door on the left side of the entrance hall takes you into the drawing room. The room displays portraits of archbishops from this century. The drawing room is used regularly by the Archbishop to entertain guests who come to visit the palace. The gardens of the palace were laid out in 1700 and established in the 11th century. As you walk through the gatehouse, you see two of many rare trees hundreds of years old. These Wellingtonias were planted in 1866 by the Prince and Princess of Wales who visited the palace. There is also a pedestal larch. Its trunk was artificially twisted while seeding. The idea was to make a seat around the trunk. The fish pond, now named the Warren Pond, dates back to 1255. A folly is situated near the pond, but no one is quite sure what it would have been used for.
There are several other stories about the palace, of course, but if you come on the tour, we'll be delighted to tell you all about it. There is quite a lot to see in the palace, and it is well worth a visit. Tours are available at the palace if you contact the palace by appointment only.